Okay, good morning, everyone. How are we? I hope we're having a great day. It's sunny outside, which makes my heart glow. Thanks for tuning in to today's Express Emergence session, which means that we will only be here for 1 hour, and it's more of a roundtable discussion as opposed to an information session. And today's session is on body image, personal boundaries, and integrity in the business. Our roundtable discussion, as I mentioned, will be 1 hour long. And if this is your first time, we'd like to give you a very warm welcome into the Emergence family. We know that you can be anywhere, but you've chosen to spend the next hour with us. Thank you. And I'm so excited to see all of the familiar faces. We'd like to begin by acknowledging that today's session comes to you from the unceded territory of the Coast Salish peoples, including the traditional territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. Unless you are elsewhere than Vancouver, I am on the Kukite land, and we'd like to also acknowledge the generous support of Creative BC and the province of British Columbia, City of Vancouver, and of course our host organization, the Red Chamber Cultural Society. Okay, so just so everyone knows, this session is being streamed live to our Facebook page. We are going live to Facebook, so tell your friends if they want to join and watch. Our sessions are interactive, okay? So we welcome questions, especially these roundtables. We welcome questions from everyone. Please just go ahead and write your questions or comments in the chat room. We love to hear from you. And if you prefer to stay anonymous, you can direct message me or Lola, and we will make your questions anonymous. You can also use the raise hand function, which I think also automatically happens sometimes if you literally raise your hand, because I'm a hand talker and it always says your hand is raised. Who knew? For today's discussion, we'd like to invite you to answer these questions for yourself as we are talking about body image, personal boundaries, and integrity in the business. We've got a couple of questions that, while we are introducing our guest speakers who are alumni of the program, that you can think about these answers for yourself as well. So get out your notes pad or, a pen and paper or whatever. So the first question is on body image. We thought you could write down how you'd like to be seen by others or perceived to someone who you look up to and someone with confidence. In regards to personal boundaries, write down what you think your personal and professional boundaries are. And for integrity in the business, make a list of your morals and values, areas that are non-negotiables for you. So when you enter into a relationship, a contract, a business meeting, any kind of work, what are your morals and values that you want to uphold, and also your non-negotiables that you will not stand for. Awesome. So now I'd like to introduce our amazing guest alumni speakers. They have been a part of the program for quite some time, and we always love seeing them. But now they are here to chat, which I'm so excited about. Jill Fai is the singer-songwriter of Moving Lines. From the beautiful Okanagan, BC. Jill works full-time as a home care nurse, which she loves as much as she loves to play and write music. Her accolades include a history of acting in theater, performing in show choirs, singing in a Neil Young tribute band, playing in her own classic rock cover band, as well as working with her husband in the audio production company. Since the pandemic, all signs pointed toward her and her husband's professional home studio. The one ingredient needed to write their own original music was time. So the one thing that was vastly available during the pandemic, yes. So they began sorting through the cutting room floor, and the creativity began to flow. Since April 2021, they've been featured in Grimes Magazine and Lazy Indie Magazine, as well as worldwide radio play in Canada, UK, New Zealand, Australia, France, Berlin, Japan, and so much more. Congratulations. Hard work and love for music feeds their souls to continue to write and send their music to the world. Don't be afraid of who you are and paint the albums of your life. We are the painters of sound. A quote from the Moving Lines. So Jill, please go right ahead and dive right in. Tell us what you think about our topic today.
Good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing this morning? Pretty good. Okay, so today we have a pretty deep subject. Body image and your integrity and your personal boundaries, they all kind of work together. it is a lot to dive into today. So we're just going to try to, get into some certain points and stuff like that that can really help your music career per se. So what I did is I took my view on it, and then we also help with a young emerging artist program here in the Okanagan. And so one of them, she's just starting out, she's just going to school, she just graduated. So I asked her those 3 questions. And I also asked my girlfriend, who is a seasoned, well-educated, overall multi-instrumentalist artist. And I asked her the same questions. So it kind of has a broad a view of, from a beginner, and I'm kind of in the middle, and then she's a seasoned artist, and what everybody kind of thinks of these topics, right? Does it make a difference over time? Does it make a difference when you're first starting out? I'll read you a few quotes and things that they said, but overall, I think surprisingly, throughout all those time frames, we all seem to have the same concept and we have the same answers, which is really amazing, really. You'd think that over time, maybe we would kind of change how we think about being in the music industry and these issues about ourselves. But overall, they were actually pretty consistent, I think, which I thought was really surprising. For body image, the lady that I asked, her name is Jay. You can check her out. She's at I Am Called Jay, and she's a young rock artist, and she's been doing really amazing. And I asked her about her body image, what she thinks, and she just blew me away. She's not very old, and she had this old soul answer. This is what she said: "The purpose of music is to express your true self, and to do that, you must be happy with your presence and take pride in who you are." And I thought that was an amazing answer to that. And basically, she just saying that she views it as a job position, right? Your body image that you portray when you're out performing and that sort of thing, you look at it as a job, right? You have your home life, you have your job life. So your music career is really no different than a job, right? So a lot of your guidelines and your work ethics follow that sort of a mainstream, I guess. A lot of us, because of our music, it's so personal, we feel like it's so connected to our personal lives, when really it's more on a business level. So it's kind of it's a tricky way to look at it, but you actually perform better and you can separate yourself better if you look at it that way. Leslie's answer was be yourself and be comfortable. And she's been around the industry for a long time. She's played in all sorts of bands. She performs with Lindsay Mitchell from Prism and multiple other artists that are, have been there and done that. She said, even though people see with their eyes, which is very true, your confidence is what they actually see. So, I mean, your body image is important, but most important, what she said, is your confidence shines through. Once they see that you're on stage and you're beaming, and then people are attracted to that. And that's one of her big key points that she came across. So I thought that was great. My kind of take on body image is, I look at it like a lot of people are shop with their eyes, right? You go to the grocery store and you're going to buy apples, right? Everyone looks for the perfect one. They probably all taste the same. Maybe you're going to make applesauce. Who cares, right? You're going to smash it anyway. But everyone looks for that perfect apple. But maybe that, the one that isn't as perfect, maybe tastes better. So that's kind of my take on body image. I mean, if you're true to yourself and you actually gleam that personality and your own taste to people, then they'll be more attracted to that than the overall image. But it is kind of constricting because, You need that image to pull people in, right? But once you have them in there, then they really are attracted to who you really are. Personal boundaries. What I got from Jay. Now, this personal boundaries thing is definitely overall through all of our opinions is that same kind of business model, right? I'm a nurse, so I have a lot of you have to have personal boundaries as a nurse, right? You get, connected to people, and professionally, it's a whole different world, right? So personal boundaries are a very healthy thing to have in your life overall, and especially in the music industry, because you go out and you see people, and the more that your fans show up, the more connected they are to you, and the more that they feel closer and closer to you, and they start encroaching into those personal boundaries. So then it becomes a little bit more important on keeping that distance, right? Jay, the young artist, she said that even if you were raised to be strong and compassionate, not everyone is the same. So people may come up to you and, they'll get really close to you, or they may say something negative or something that you start thinking, oh, I thought that they were a friend or whatever. And then they start criticizing you, or, they start giving you negative comments and that sort of a thing, right? But she said, don't compromise your boundaries for missing out opportunities either. So basically that's, people come up and, knock you down. And even when you're trying to look for other jobs and that sort of a thing, you have to look past all of that negative sort of a thing and your boundaries, and stick to who you are. And I guess that's the biggest issue there. Leslie, the seasoned artist, she says you may get heckled. Of course, everyone gets heckled or these negative comments. And she said, don't ever feed into those negative comments. Somebody says, like sexual comments or something that makes you really uncomfortable, or whatever they're going to say is negative, just ignore it and keep on going. And if somebody gives you a positive comment, you feed into that. So you're always feeding into the positive energy, which I thought was a really great point from Leslie. And she knows, she's been on all the stages, and you always get hecklers, right? The bigger you are, the more shows that you do, you just kind of like, yeah, whatever. I don't really need that negative comment, so I'm just going to keep on going, right? Which is really tough. Let's see, what else do I have here? She had mentioned things like when people come up to you for your personal boundaries, and they start giving all these comments and like, hey, can I come over to your house after? Or, we should hang out, right? Like, yeah, you guys are laughing. You're like, oh yeah, they'll do that. I'm like, hey girl, yeah, let's go for a drink after, right? And you have to be honest and stop it sooner than later. And Leslie said to say, thank you, but, I prefer to leave this as, a separate relationship, don't take any offense to it, just be honest with people right away. As soon as they start coming at you on a personal level, just kind of, lay down the line right away and try to keep that boundary right away, which is hard. It's a really hard thing to do, but, the more that it gets away on you, the harder it's going to be to separate yourself from those sort of people, right? So, and Leslie said, remember that the crowd is just your acquaintance. They're not friends, they're just an acquaintance, right? So it's a great way to look at it on how to separate who your fans are, and especially the fans that you see all the time, right? And I guess my take on it is kind of what I said earlier. It's like my nursing career, right? We have to have healthy personal boundaries, that's your work life, and this is my personal life, and you have to physically separate yourself from that, just to have a healthy life. What you do in your day-to-day isn't anyone else's business but yours. And a lot of people, the more that they get to know you at gigs, or you see them downtown or whatever, right, it's easy to cross that line. So yeah, just make sure that you maintain and, keep that healthy distance from people, and just say, or cut conversation short. Oh yeah, hey, how you doing? Okay, we'll see you at the show or whatever, right? That sort of a thing. So, and thirdly, integrity with the business. Jay, the young artist, said, stay true to yourself for integrity, which I thought is a very wonderful saying to say for anyone, right? You have to be true to yourself. You're professional and you take everything seriously, right? In the music industry, but you still have to be true to who you are, which can be really hard at times. You want to be what everybody else wants you to be, but you still have to be who you are, even though you create an alternative vision to people, but you're still true to who you are. Take time to think things through to avoid regret. And that came from Jay. She says, if a decision doesn't feel right, it's probably because it clashes with your morals. And that is an amazing thing for a young artist to say, that she's already on the right track, right? Your instinct, go with your instinct and your morals and say, you know what, I feel that whatever this show is or whatever they're offering me, I won't feel right if I do it or whatever, that it's okay to say no. And I thought that was amazing. Leslie says, if someone asks you to recommend somebody, sometimes it's best not to. When you're dealing with integrity in the business, I'm sure she's had issues where when you recommend somebody, it becomes part of your integrity, right? It reflects on who you are. She believes that sometimes it's best to stay out of other people's business sometimes, which is a very wise, comment to make for integrity in the business, to keep to your own craft and, try not to expand too far into that. Be professional, show up early, be on time, and be sober and professional. So I'm sure she's been with a lot of bands where people are not sober, and then that reflects on you. So yeah, that's, especially if you're playing pubs and that sort of thing, right? That's your integrity. People, if you're sober and you're professional, they know that they can count on you. So that's a huge part of your integrity. I basically was thinking the same thing. Deal with everything in a professional manner with integrity. I mean, we always do. We treat everything like a professional business, right? You're there early, they have issues, you're on it, you're always paying attention, you're in the game, right? When you're there. It's because it's like they've hired you to be there. They're paying you. So you are working for them. So you have to be professional. And then that also reflects back on you for your own integrity in the business. So be truthful and always stand up for your worth. A lot of people will say, oh, I'll play for a dinner and a drink or whatever, right? And I think integrity belongs with knowing who you're worth. Say, this is how much I'm going to charge for a show. This is what I'm worth. If you don't agree, I'm not going to say, oh, it's okay, well, I'll do it anyway, right? Keep that part of integrity to yourself and ask for a good amount of money, because it actually affects everyone in your area. It affects other artists, right? If you say, oh, well, so-and-so will do it for 150, and you're like, okay, well, I'm sorry, we don't, this is what our fee is. And once everyone sticks to their own integrity and brings up that bar, then everyone benefits. So I guess that's my biggest take on integrity. So yeah, I guess that's a little bit of everything.
That was amazing. Thank you, Jill. I love all those different perspectives. I thought that was really valuable to get those different opinions from different levels of experience and walks of life. I mean, we all have not been so wise in our careers. And it's nice to see that the younger generations are gaining that wisdom nice and early. I have so many things that I want to speak to that you mentioned, but let's move to Caitlin and we will hear what she has to say, and then we'll open up the conversation where you guys can all answer the Q&A and comment on what Caitlin and Jill have had to say. So let me introduce Caitlin. Goulet writes songs that are like dreams you can get lost in, like sound taking over your spirit, a quote from Jarrett Martineau at CBC. Out on July 9th, 2021, her new album, Inside Thoughts, explores the inner world of sad girl gone bad girl who's bossing up and healing. The Métis singer channels raw, conversational, and unapologetic lyrics through a dynamic and magnetic voice. Her alt-pop, dream pop, and alternative R&B stylings are likened to Banks, FKA Twigs, Solange, Taishi, Kalela, Lana Del Rey, Aaliyah, and Brandy. Welcome, Caitlin. Thank you. Tell us all of your experience and thoughts.
All right, hi. So I'm going to just get the imposter syndrome out of the way right away and tell you all the reasons why I shouldn't be here today talking about this. So I'm an eating disorder survivor. I don't like using the term recover because I think that even when you're outside of self-harm, it's still something that you have to monitor. It's still something that is going to follow you, that you need to like keep track of and check yourself on. So I'll start there. I've in terms of like personal boundaries, professional boundaries, it took me till the ripe old age of 35 to start clapping back to a lot of the more senior people and a lot of the male people in this industry. So I learned a lot of this stuff the hard way. I learned it trial by fire. So that's why I shouldn't be here today. But yeah, so body image has been a really crazy journey for me. I started out in gymnastics and in performing arts really young, and those are both areas that women, all people, but we're women here, we're talking about women's stuff, so I'm saying women are really vulnerable and susceptible to those kind of issues. Yeah, and I know things have come a long way in the last 15, 20 years. It was a lot worse when I was first starting out. I remember specifically going to this conference in LA, and I busted my butt like to get in shape. I was in the gym 3 hours a day. I was on 800 calories a day, and I had this producer tell me like how amazing I was and trying to sell me this whole idea of like working with him. And he was like, yeah, just make sure you don't gain any weight. And I was just like, wow. And that was, that was, gosh, over 10 years ago now. So I know lots have changed, lots has changed. And I think the whole body positivity movement has done a lot for us, but I also think that it's also kind of swung us in another direction now. We're shaming thin people, and it's just like there's always a flavor of the week in terms of like what body shape is most desirable. Body modification, plastic surgery is more popular than ever. There's nothing wrong with that if that's how you want to express yourself physically. It's just, it puts a lot of pressure on everybody to look a certain way. It's the age of social media now, so we all feel this pressure to constantly be putting out specifically visual content, which means we're always worrying about how we look, how old we look, how our bodies look, and it's a lot, especially as artists. So to me, body image, if we were to dumb it down, it is basically how you view your body and how you want other people to view your body and the degree of attractiveness. So I think over the years, obviously having been through all the things I've been through, being through the eating disorder stuff, being through trying to create this brand and image for myself, I've come to a place now where I have to believe that I love my body no matter what. I gave birth to a baby girl in August. Obviously, my body's really different now than it's ever been. So, again, I love my body no matter what. My body's here to serve me and to help me do the things I love to do. And that's really where I hope that everyone can arrive is that viewing their body as something that can enable them to do what they want to do, instead of worrying so much about, nitpicking all the small details on it. I know that's easier said than done. I'm always happy to engage with people on that topic, because it's not a simple road. It's not easy all the time. I think specifically for women, especially, the media and the industry and the world uses shame to control us a lot, and shame to manipulate us into things. The beauty industry is, they make their fortune on creating a problem and then presenting a solution. So I think it's just so important for us to tackle our own shame, whatever those things are that we're ashamed of, and just even own them. So, the first Emergence session I went to, someone was asking me, because I was kind of being weird about my food. I was like picking things apart and stuff, because I'm still weird about my food sometimes. And they were like, what are you doing? And I was like, well, actually, I have an eating disorder, and that's why I'm a little weird about my food. And they were really shocked that I shared that with them. But by saying that, it just made it so much easier for me to like not worry about it anymore, and just be like, here you go, this is me. And I'm not saying that every person is going to be comfortable with that, but the more that you can own those things that you're insecure about and get in front of them, the more they're not going to have any power over you. So that's thank you. Yeah, so that's my little introduction to body image stuff. In terms of boundaries, yeah, wow, that's a big one. Because it's not just with your fans, it's also with other people in the business. Again, it's really common for us to be sexualized in this business. And, I actually had, I had to change Instagram accounts last year, because I had for a long time sort of been presenting myself a certain way on Instagram. I had a certain style and brand that I was presenting. I wanted to come across as edgy and, fashion forward, because of all these expectations that we have for female artists. And I just found that things were getting super out of control in my DMs. I had people that were only interested in coming to see my shows if it meant I was going to have a drink with them afterwards. And, asking me super personal questions that were, I didn't know them at all. And it was just really discouraging, honestly, because it was like, don't you value my artistry? Like, why is it that you're coming here for this? So I actually had a fresh start, and I started a whole new Instagram account, and I set up just certain things that for me, I would like to stick to. I'm not saying that every person needs to do that, but one of those things is, yeah, I don't show off my body as much on this account. If you're someone that likes to express themselves that way, and you feel safe and comfortable, and it's coming from a place that you're in control, then by all means. If you have systems in place to manage the riffraff, then by all means. But it does get really, really tricky. In terms of integrity, one of the best pieces of advice I got when I first moved to Vancouver was from Barbara Seaton, and she used to work for SoCan. And what she said was, always treat your business relationships as if you're not going to be friends again tomorrow. And so what that means is putting those things in place, getting your paperwork in order, getting everything organized and proper, so that, if something happens where you're just not connected personally anymore, that you're organized, that everyone's getting paid properly. So I think that's really important. I also think, act as if you're always, being held accountable and being watched. I think the true test of someone's integrity is what they're doing when nobody's going to find out. A lot of times I've had co-writes happen where I've ended up taking something from one piece and recycling it into a new piece with somebody else. And that's, you could say, oh, like, they're never going to find out. Or you could be like, hey, you know what, I actually have this idea that I'm bringing here from somebody else. So I do need to talk to that co-writer about what's the most appropriate way for us to split this up. So it's always just thinking about like what could possibly happen if it all blew wide open. And I mean, we shouldn't be thinking that like, oh, like I'm only going to do the right thing if someone's going to find out. That's not what I mean. But I just think always assume that like people will find out, because the truth does always come out. Oh, actually, no, wait, one thing. Boundaries. What I wanted to say about boundaries is how I like to sum boundaries up is the things that you put in place to keep yourself safe, healthy, and effective. So just always remember that those boundaries are in place so that you can do your job well, that you can be safe, and that you can keep yourself healthy, whether that's physically, mentally, all that. So that's how I distinguish what my boundaries are. There we go.
Yes. Oh my gosh, both of you have said so many things that I just kind of want to touch upon. So I can't wait to hear what everybody has to say. So let's open this discussion up a little bit. And if anybody wants to either comment on something that Caitlin or Jill said, come up with one of the answers, or share what you might have done. I want to keep these a little bit shorter, just because we only have the 1 full hour today, and we're already running probably 25 minutes left, so we're just over halfway. But I really, the point of all of this is to open it up and to hear what you guys have experienced, how you're feeling. I love all of this information that's been coming out so far, and I think it's awesome because it's coming from a bunch of different experiences and perspectives. And I think the more that we get to share and hear this stuff, the more we can find ourselves in these perspectives. I could relate to things that both of you have said. I have my own experiences as well. So if anybody has anything that they want to share, just maybe let's type it in the chat, and then we'll kind of pick you out as we go, so it's not super chaotic. So just say, hey, me. Darcy wants to know, how does everyone deal with self-consciousness stemming from body image while performing live on stage? Darcy, do you want to say a little something about that while we're here?
Well, I was just reflecting on, just from personal perspective, thinking back on when body image probably posed a little bit of an issue for myself. And I remember, I don't know why, but I have these like images of me performing live, and in the middle of it, somehow, when we're performing, obviously we're always trying to be in the moment and not think about, oh, how's my voice sounding? How does my dress look? But I do find that those things become little just spurts of distractions that get in the way of the real work and the real performance, the thing that we really should care about most. So I'm just wanted to open it up. I don't really have anything to say on that, but I'm curious to hear how other people deal with it. I think as I've gotten older, I'm definitely a lot more comfortable, but I mean, I've always been a bit of a self-conscious person. I know it's like, why do you choose this occupation? It's like, but it's just, that's just the way it is. And actually performing live has helped in that aspect, but it's definitely something that I think I would say I still deal with to this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. I think it's very relatable. Victoria, you wanted to say something about it.
Hi, everyone. My name is Victoria. I'm through the pandemic. I also work in healthcare, actually, and kind of as an outlet for all the stress, I started trying to perform more. And I played for years, but I'm trying to make it more professional. And I've learned so much in this conversation. I just wanted to say thank you. The thing that I struggle with body image is not just the typical, how does my body look, and is it sexualized, and is it sexualized too much or not enough? But I use a wheelchair from a spinal cord injury. And so like, you rarely see people perform on stage who look physically different. And I have been, the way I've sort of tried to approach that, initially I was kind of like, well, on Zoom and everything, I can just have everything from the waist up, so I don't have to deal with it. I don't have to talk about it. It's just a non-issue. But then what I want to do is perform live. And I had so much stage fright for years. Like I played probably the last 20 years. I haven't really played outside because I've just been so nervous about how that would be perceived. I mean, I didn't want people to just clap because I'm in a chair. I want the music to shine through. But the coolest thing that has helped me with my stage fright is like good vocal coaching and some performance coaching actually as well. That's learning kind of you want to be real, but you also can have almost a structure to it. That helped me a lot. And the other thing is that when I focus on like the joy of music and how much I really love it and the connection to it, then it doesn't, I kind of get lost in the joy of it and the song instead of how I'm feeling or how it looks or how someone might perceive it. Because ultimately we can't control how someone's going to perceive it or what they're going to take. And I just also wanted to say to Caitlin that I really appreciate that. It also took me till 35 till I kind of learned like you teach people how to treat you, and you can kind of direct the conversation or assert your boundaries, or just like you can kind of direct the audience's attention to what you want them to focus on. If you can kind of do that for yourself, then I don't get so lost in my performance anxiety. I hope that's helpful for somebody else.
That's incredible. That was amazing. Thank you. And welcome. Thank you. And welcome to Emergence. It's so lovely to have you and have your experiences and opinions shared. Caitlin, you want to say something?
Yeah, sorry. Oh, I'm not muted. Okay, perfect. Yeah, so I experienced that a lot. I performed a whole bunch right when I was again getting out of like my self-harming behaviors as an eating disordered person. And one thing that I would always be so self-conscious of, especially as a singer, was like my stomach. In gymnastics and ballet and stuff, they're always like telling you to like suck your stomach in. And when you're singing, that's like the opposite of what you need to be doing. So, you know, I'd have these lovely, loving fans put pictures up on Facebook of me with like all these shadows and stuff. And I'm like, right before a money note, there's my belly, like out to the walls. And I, you know, it really used to make me so self-conscious, to the point where it actually started affecting my vocal technique. And so again, this is about knowing, okay, my body's job here is to sing the crap out of this song. So it doesn't matter what my stomach looks like. I don't know if anyone else has gone through like if you've had a photographer take pictures of you when you perform live, if you've gone through your pictures and it looks like you're taking a poop in most of them. Again, my body's job is to sing the crap out of this song. So I encourage everyone, actually, I saw this post earlier this week. One of my friends from Kamloops, Sabrina Weeks, posted it, shared it, but it's from Krystle Shawanda's TikTok. And she did this post called I Don't Sing Pretty. And she showed this whole montage of all those pictures where she's dripping in sweat, where her face is like distorted, and she looks like she could be the Hulk. And they're so powerful. And that's, I think, the point is that we're not here to be pretty. We're here to be powerful. We're here to empower other people. And in that moment, our body's job is to create that art and to not worry about what the pictures are going to look like. That was my thought on live performance body image stuff.
I'm going to be the cheese ball that goes, hell yeah. Like, I just love that so much. That's such good advice. Is there anybody else who wants to speak on exactly what we're talking about and body image? Or we can pivot the conversation at this point to answer any of those questions that we had at the beginning. Yeah, Laura, welcome, by the way. Thank you for being here.
Hi, thank you. Lovely to meet everybody. And thank you so much. Yeah, just lots of things there kind of really resonated with me. And one thing that came up for me in terms of how do you like to be seen by others? I often find I'm often quite split, and it's kind of a two-sided thing for me, because I think there's one part of me that really wants to appear confident and strong and kind of know what I'm doing and know what I want. But then there's another part of me that, I'm a transient being and I don't always feel that way. And what I want to be is just authentically however I am when I'm performing, in an effort to kind of connect with an audience on a more human level, rather than just being like a character that kind of is on the stage, if that makes sense. And I think that's kind of something that I'm kind of working with in myself right now. And actually, Victoria, thank you very much for bringing up performance coaching, because I think that's something I'd be very interested to kind of check in with you about, and how you're finding that, and in terms of kind of navigating the essence of being kind of a changeable human, and kind of navigating that in terms of, you know, booking performances and shows and being comfortable with, you know, being yourself on that day, performing your songs authentically. And yeah, so that definitely kind of came up for me. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for all of that. That's awesome. Yes. Okay. So as I go through the chat, Rachel would be interested in hearing more about other people's experiences in having personal boundaries online while still presenting an authentic version of themselves. I think that's a great thing. For me personally, if I can just dive in quickly and comment on that, is that I like to keep my personal life very personal. It's almost like this beautiful, like, secret hiding place. And it doesn't have to be so secret. I'll tell you about my kids if you want to hear about them. And I have 2 kids, but you'd never know that online. And I kind of enjoy that. And I find that as much as I love to show my personality on stage, and I think it's very important to show yourself online, especially if you have that online presence and you're building that, all you have to do is choose a couple of things to share and to show. You don't have to share everything. You know, say you're a makeup person and you also have some great jokes or one-liners as you're going through, and, you know, there's a lot to share that you don't have to let all of yourself out there with. And my husband and I have very strictly decided that we are going to keep our children to ourselves and to our close loved ones. But in regards to, you know, just being a personality, I think you can certainly take some very powerful things and you can share just those ones. You know, you can really choose wisely and curate, I think, is the right way of saying it. I think Jill and Caitlin want to say something, so go. Yeah, please, let's hear it.
Hi, so this is for Laura, when you had mentioned about that you're not always strong. I just want to say there is strength in your vulnerability. And sometimes when you connect your audience with that and you're like, you know, I'm not having a good day, there's other people out there that aren't having a good day. And I think that is a really smart way to connect with your audience and bring them in and say, you know what, I'm not always perfect. And I think in the world today, I mean, things are changing to more realism and that sort of a thing. And I know, you know, on TikTok and all these things, you know, most things are real, you know, and a lot of artists are like, take your makeup off, or, you know, like, get down to the nitty gritty. And I think that that's something that you can embrace, that, you know, you can tell people that and be honest and say, you know, this is what's going on today. Is anybody else going through it? You know, and I think that you can really connect with them that way and just, yeah, engage with them. So that's what I wanted to say to you. But yeah, it's awesome.
All right, so I know Rachel was one of the folks asking about being authentic, but still having a boundary in your social media. And that's definitely something that I've been working on a lot over the last few years. Again, like, I'm gonna be honest, social media started to cause some problems in my personal life, and that's why I had to start making these boundaries. Another thing I did was I got rid of, I changed my personal Facebook account. So now I've only got like 200 friends. If I say something silly or weird, they're mostly people who know me and get me. And they're not, again, people who are just going to be like creeping into my DMs asking me to, like, you know, work on something. And then it turns out they just want to, like, me to come over to their place or something weird like that. So one thing I do, and this might work for you, this might not, but I really actually try to not communicate over DMs on my social media, or minimize it as much as possible. I have drafted specific responses for each of my accounts in terms of, like, okay, thanks for your interest in my music. This is where you can find my work. If you're interested in working with me for any of these reasons, this is how you can contact me. And I pop it over to email. And if they don't want to listen to those very basic instructions, I really don't want to work with somebody like that. It's that simple. In terms of, like, fan interactions, that's what the comments are for. That's what, you know, the reply threads are for. Right now, I love Twitter because you don't have to put pictures of yourself up if you don't feel like it. And it's a lot less pressure, I think. It's a great place to really show your personality, because you can have those ongoing conversations without it going into chat. Another reason why I've chosen to minimize my use of DMs is I find like I really tend to become very compassionate and connected to people's problems. And I'm not their therapist. My job is to make music to help them heal in that way. And it's not my job to start, you know, going down that path. If somebody needs resources, absolutely. If you have a link you can send them, you can do that. But I try to just minimize that as much as possible. Obviously, there are some group chats I'm in because it's like, you know, support groups or whatever. But for me personally, I minimize my DMs. At one point, I used to have in my bios like no DMs, email only. Obviously, you only get so many characters. So I'm still playing around with like how I can work on that and still say everything I need to say in my bio. But just again, that's a boundary for me that keeps me safe and effective. It also means I'm not going to have tons of DMs that I, you know, could have been an opportunity that I completely missed because I didn't check it. So that's my view on that. Keep everything that you're going to show your personality. That should be, you know, in public. That should be in the comments. That should be in those public conversations. That's what I think.
That's amazing. That's like razor sharp boundaries, in my opinion. I think that's so strong of you to be able to you know, sort of design that for yourself. And I love the automated responses. I think that's such a great idea. It's really fantastic. So we only have about 9 to 10 minutes left. I mean, obviously we can go over a little bit if we really are on a flow here, but is there anything else that anybody wants to bring up and talk about? Like personally, there's so much that I could just like touch upon from what everybody said, like in terms of boundaries at a concert, if someone's talking to you too long. I've had band members, mostly at like the divey blues clubs and things, that will come in and say, band meeting in 2 minutes, you got to come now, let's go. And that's a good way to cut somebody off, you know, in terms of like business boundaries and all of that stuff. I think we've touched upon so many wonderful elements and perspectives. I think it's really incredible.
So this is not really answering or starting more questions, but just reflecting on some things that have been said. Jill, you mentioned something around instinct. I think it's really important, especially when you're working with a group of people. So if you have management or you know, I don't want to say an entourage of people, but if you have a group of people that are working with you / for you, or even, you know, or even band members, it's important not to be manipulated into thinking you must look and dress a certain way. This is coming from a personal perspective. And I know that Krystle and I had a lot of private chats about this. You know, people, and thankfully this happened when I'm, you know, older, so I know better. But even then you'll be surprised like how much those comments and those types of pressures actually affect you mentally, and they kind of stick with you and they make you doubt. So things like, you know, comments about your weight, of course, you know, pressure to stay a certain weight, but also things that you can or cannot wear on stage. So there's that difference between how you want to be seen on stage and how other people think you should be seen on stage, that image. And even, you know, as ugly as things like, oh, I think you should get this done on your face, this procedure done on your face, right? So those things, you can kind of write them off on the spot, but they always have a way, interestingly enough, but I guess it depends on the personality, to kind of crawl under your skin, and then they make you doubt things. So just really watch for that, especially if you're a younger artist. And I guess setting those boundaries and making sure that you are choosing to work with people that are not toxic like that. I think that's important. So that touches on, I guess, boundaries, integrity, and body image. So that's something that I'm speaking from personal experience.
No, I agree with you, Darcy. I think that surrounding yourself with the right people, and sometimes people can feel like the right people, but they're definitely not. And they can bring so much toxicity to your life, which then I think breaks down your judgment and walls to then really have these boundaries that actually work for you. There's been so many times where, you know, I've had terrible experiences, and then all of my judgment is like upside down in terms of trying to figure out what's good, what's bad, how do I conduct myself, all of that kind of thing. We can consider ourselves, like Caitlin said, it's about power, and we can consider ourselves the band leader, the boss, own that, and then conduct and structure your business in that very way as well. I think that when we're challenged with things like, hey, do you want to change this? You should wear that. Your skirt should be shorter. I auditioned for girl groups when I was younger, and I was told that I wasn't sexy and sassy enough, and that I should wear a wig. And, you know, and that I needed to be like more, you know, sleek. And this was just after, a few years after, but not too long after, the Spice Girls in the UK. And it was in the UK that this was happening. And I thought, you know, this is so ridiculous. Like, it definitely hit me to the core, but like, come on, you know, like, I want a better opportunity than that. This is clearly not for me if that's what you want out of this. So, you know, there's been many opportunities there where it's like, you know, you almost feel the danger bulb flashing, and it's hard to get out of it. And as we age, we get to sort of have that perspective a lot more clearly. But no matter what your age is, just like the red flags, just like Jill said, use your instincts, and as soon as you feel something bad is happening, try to get ahead of it. As Caitlin was saying, try to get ahead of that stuff before someone, you know, before you need to catch up or you feel bad about that. Caitlin, you want to say something?
Absolutely. So a couple of really quick anecdotes. Obviously, you're not always going to know what your boundaries are until somebody crosses them. So you're always going to be adjusting that, and you're going to have different boundaries with different people. You know, two of my co-writers who are my buddies, I have no problem if we want to get, you know, blasted and drink Jameson in a writing session, but am I going to do that with somebody who I don't know or has a publishing deal and is somebody that, you know, I was connected with, where I'm affecting not just my reputation or someone else's? Of course not. In terms of your boundaries, I think it's also really important for you, as people were mentioning before, surrounding yourself with the right people and making sure that they know what your boundaries are. I can't think of how many times I've been lucky that I've had band members, you know, kind of help support me in situations where, like Krystle was mentioning, you've got a fan that just like won't stuff it and you need to get on with your life. And it's so funny because I witnessed that happen at the shipyards with Krystle. Like, I saw it happen. I think you remember that. Yeah. And then, you know, also like, so I have a band member who works with me sometimes, and they have a different ability, or you could say disability. I don't know how people want to say that these days, but so it was really important that at all times for all events that everybody knew about these things. For example, sensitivity to fragrances. So it's really important that the team knows about that and that everybody is supporting that band member so that, again, they can be safe, healthy, and effective. Another thing I just wanted to really quickly say is I can't emphasize enough the value of taking things to email. If you're starting to feel like this happened to me a lot, where I would agree to things in, you know, real-time conversations, and then find myself afterwards being like, oh man, like that is not what I wanted to do. I don't like how this went. So especially if you feel like someone's just, you know, really talking fast. I have ADHD, so sometimes I just get flustered anyways. If they're really talking fast, if they're really like pressuring a certain thing, especially if they're more experienced in the industry, just say, hey, look, you know what, why don't we discuss this over email? Then I can keep track of everything. I keep my thoughts organized, but it also helps you to slow down that whole process in a way where you have the time to think about how you want to respond to things before you agree to something that you don't want to do. So yeah, I mean, as much as it really is so uncomfortable and we hate doing this, but having those conversations as you go and constantly checking in with someone, and then you can sort of see like how are they responding to these things as you go, and start seeing like, okay, is this going to be a problem or not? I had a producer who did this so well, like would constantly be checking in with me like, hey, this is kind of how I want to see things going. How do you feel about that? And even though I would have totally avoided those conversations, I really learned a lot from that experience in terms of just being professional and respectful of each other's artistry and work and time. And I think that's another thing with boundaries that really, really sucks, is sometimes we have to take a loss when we enforce our boundaries. Sometimes we have to do things that, you know, really suck, that we don't want to do, but it's in the end, I think it's really easy for us to keep investing and reinvesting in a situation and hoping and thinking that it's going to get better when there's no foundation of respect there to begin with. You just kind of have to pull the plug. I know it sucks. Oh, I forgot what I was gonna say, but yeah. And I think the other thing too is to remember, guys, is as much as we have our own boundaries, other people are gonna have their own boundaries too. And there's gonna be times when we enforce our personal boundaries that we have to do things that we don't like, or we have to, you know, say no to something that we really wanted to work, but it's not gonna work with our boundaries. So just remember that.
Oh, such fantastic conversation happening here. I feel like this could have been a 2-hour session, no problem. Thank you all so much for being here. We are at time, actually, we're a little bit over, but thank you all so much for being here. And I'll take some closing remarks in just a second, but I do want to thank our mentors. Thank you all for joining us so much today. And of course, our sponsors, Creative BC, Province of British Columbia, City of Vancouver, and our parent company, Red Chamber Cultural Society. Also, check our website. We'd love to see you back here anytime. You are so welcome. And this is a community that we love to foster and grow. So join us on our Facebook, our Instagram, and of course, if you do want the WhatsApp link, we can send that to you. And of course, if this has provided some value to you and you've enjoyed this experience with us here at Emergence, then spread the word. Tell everybody you know. The more the merrier, right? And of course, I'm going to do a little promotion of next month's program. So our next session is on Saturday, March 12th, and it's a full-length classic session from 10 to 12 p.m. It's a special collaboration, which I'm terribly excited about, with Producers Lounge and our guest Jane Aurora, who is the brainchild behind Producers Lounge and Capsule Vancouver, as well as Mary Jane Wi-Fi with a good friend of mine, Mary Chetta, who's a piano player. So together, or I should say not together. So we'll be discussing her many projects as well as programs, including, you know, I'll do sort of an interview with her. We'll talk about the artist and producer relationship, which I'm super interested in hearing because, you know, I've had so many different experiences and I never really thought to myself before the fact, what is the type of relationship I should be having with this colleague, right? I always find myself feeling like I'm the the person who needs the help, and then they're the expert. Grant writing, because she's an incredible grant writer and she's got some great business perspectives as well as the artist perspective. And the Producers Lounge, 2 interactive online masterclass events, which are happening now, and you can apply for them. You just need to check them out on Instagram at Producers Lounge Vancouver and at Capsule Vancouver on Instagram. So if you are interested in any of that, check them out. And also keep in touch with us, as I mentioned, on Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, and our website. Take care, everybody. Enjoy your Saturday. I hope you get out in that sunshine.